the station of unlimited possibilities, presents Creating Your Seat at the Table with your host, Ashley Little, as she welcomes her guest to the table.
Welcome to Creating Your Seat at the Table. I am your host, Ashley Little. A little bit about myself: corporate professional by day, entrepreneur by night, 6-time best-selling author, CEO and founder of Ashley Little Enterprises, LLC, owner and creator of Creative Broadcasting, and founder and owner of Talk Radio and TV Network, LLC. Tonight we have an amazing special VIP guest by the name of Latoya Evans. A little bit about her. Latoya Evans is a strategic communications executive who has served as a senior crisis communications strategist and spokesperson for some of the world's most notable brands, including Walmart, Bank of America, IBM, Philips, and Compass Group. Evans owns a boutique public relations firm where she leads media and marketing initiatives for high-profile businesses, politicians, and professional athletes. Notably, in 2017, Latoya also served as Chief Communications Officer to former Charlotte, North Carolina Mayor Protein V. Lau, served as a spokesperson and chief writer for her mayoral campaign, which resulted in Lau being elected the city's first African-American woman mayor. She since maintained her role as an advisor to the mayor, leading Lau's re-election efforts in 2019 and consulting on numerous issues facing the state of North Carolina. Covering a broad spectrum of industries, Latoya has also worked with greats ranging from Detroit rapper Big Sean to the inventor of the IBM personal computer, as well as being a communications leader on U.S. presidential campaigns for both Andrew Yang and Mike Bloomberg. Most recently, Evans served as the head of corporate public relations at Alley Financial. Prior to her role at Alley, she was the director, head of communications North and South America, and global crisis communications co-leader for Cisco Systems, leading a seasoned team of 24 communications professionals from across the world. Evans was previously vice president, chief communications officer for the U.S. corporate dining division of Compass Group, the world's largest food service company, reporting to the CEO and overseeing all aspects of corporate communications. Prior to Compass Group, she was vice president, corporate communications at Bank of America, corporate where she oversaw media relations for the East Coast and Northeast, including crisis communication for the region. Having experience in multiple industries, Evans also was the senior manager of U.S. media relations in Walmart Corporate, the world's largest company, where she headed strategic media relations for 6 retail divisions and served as a national media spokesperson. She previously lived in New York and oversaw media and various entertainment partnerships across the United States. For Philips Electronics and managed communications for IBM's Global Technology Services division, writing for the inventor of last eye surgery and being part of the public relations team that launched the famous artificial intelligence computer Watson. Prior to her career in communications, Ms. Evans ran a freelance writing business, working often for Glamour and People magazines. Ms. Evans is also active in the community. She was appointed by the Charlotte City Council to the Community Relations Committee, which is designed to promote equality in North Carolina's largest city, where she specifically works on the city's crisis response efforts. Additionally, she sits on a C-suite advisory board for M&S Bank, one of the country's largest black-owned financial institutions, and is a member of the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill's Hudson School of Media and Journalism Board. Previously, Latoya served on the state committee for Miss North Carolina as the director of the Children's Miracle Network Hospitals, overseeing fundraising and charity efforts for the state program. With fundraising and charity being a passion for Latoya, she was a leader in the Junior League of Charlotte as chair of public relations and marketing for the Fund Development Council. She is a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated and has also previously been honored as a rising PR star by PR News in 2016, one of Charlotte's 50 most influential women in 2017, and Charlotte Business Journal's 40 Under 40 in 2018. In 2019, she was named a More Than Pink Woman by Susan G. Komen, Charlotte, and a Standout by Sis Fibrous Foundation, all for her advocacy in charity and fundraising. Evans has also been an adjunct communications professor at Fayetteville Technical Community College for the last 5 years. She holds a Master's of Arts in Organizational Leadership with a concentration in crisis communications from Meredith College in Poughkeepsie, New York, and a Bachelor's of Arts in Journalism and Mass Communication from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. She is a graduate of E.E. Smith High School, where Latoya Evans Academic Excellence Scholarship has been given in her honor annually since 2004. Welcome to the table, the amazing Latoya Evans.
Oh, thank you so much, Ashley. Thank you for the kind words, and thank you for having me on. We have been trying to get together and have this conversation literally since last year, so very grateful, honored to be here.
I am excited and humbled to have you at the table. And yes, we finally have the amazing Latoya Evans at the table. So tell us more about your entrepreneur journey. I mean, I know you do a little bit of the entrepreneur journey and corporate side. So talk to us about your journey overall.
Sure, and I think now is such an appropriate time to have this conversation because I became an entrepreneur by pure accident. My first entryway into entrepreneurship happened when I was an undergrad, just like the bio you just read, where I was in school pursuing a journalism degree. And during that time, people would approach me and ask me to either extend the internships that I had in New York City when I got back to North Carolina, or they would ask me to do some reporting for them on the side, which I did as a way to earn money. And help put myself through school. And in that, things worked out. Next thing I knew, by the time I was at the end of my sophomore year, I had a business, I had, money that could help sustain me. And it happened again well into my corporate career, actually. I took a role as a chief communications officer at a company reporting to the CEO, and had left what I thought was honestly one of the best jobs I ever had in my corporate career to take this really big leadership role. And within a year of me getting there, there was a big reorganization at the company. And in that, roles got shifted, communications combined into another department. And within a year of leaving a very stable role, I found myself back on the path to job searching and finding a new corporate home. And because by that time, people had already known that I did PR, they were aware of my skill set, they knew of the things I did in corporate America, people started to approach me to ask me to help them with their brands. And I got some of my very first, but also really big clients just within that first 6 months. Some of my most notable came in this time where I wasn't specifically speaking into the universe or meditating or manifesting at all an entrepreneurship journey. So in so many ways, it started out of the necessity of, hey, I'm looking for my next corporate gig, my next corporate home, and this other half of, but you got to help me. I don't care if you go to a corporation again or not, but I specifically want your eyes on this. I want you to help my company. And from there, it just grew and grew. So it was something that was a complete accident, and I was someone who never wanted to be an entrepreneur. And a lot of that came from the fact that I grew up around a lot of entrepreneurs. My father's an entrepreneur. Many of the men in my family are. I've been around many other people, and I've seen their day in and day out struggles, and I never thought it was for me. But today I see in a lot of ways that it is.
Love that. I love it. Love your journey. So please tell us about your passion for working in the media industry.
Sure. So it really started off with me as a journalist. That was how I began my career. I was super passionate about telling the stories of other people and starting as a pure writer. Starting in the women's books, I used to work in freelance for Glamour and People, and I worked for so many of the other women's books, just in terms of even reporting for like Cosmopolitan. And I had a real passion for using that as a platform and helping to educate people just about different things, about the journeys of other people. And in that, as I often say, I came out of undergrad similar to yourself in 2008. And when I came out, there were still really opportunities to go into print publications and to go into pure journalism. But as we all know, and especially looking back on what could be the brink of another major recession, is that during that time, print magazines and a lot of industries lost their footing and they closed. 2008, 2009 was a super pivotal year for a number of industries and a number of people, and it changed the way the world worked as we knew it. So when faced with the just decision to pursue magazines in what had become a very unstable industry versus using the exact same skill set, the media relations, the knowledge of stories that people wanted to hear and read about, and also that relationship building element and going into PR just seemed like a much more viable option in the short term. And I told myself, okay, 2008, we'll do PR, we'll do this for 1 year, and then in the year, this recession thing should blow over. And it never did. It didn't then, for the beginning and the infancy of my career post-undergraduate studies. And I stayed on the path. And what I didn't expect at the time was whenever I would see my name in Cosmopolitan or I'd see it in a magazine on a shelf, it was a feeling of euphoria. It was like the most incredible thing to be able to walk back then into, a newsstand or to a grocery store or any other store and open a major magazine and see my name right there on the page. And I never thought that I would get that same feeling from being able to place a story in PR. And lo and behold, the first time that I had my story placed or being cited as a spokesperson, and it said Latoya Evans spokesperson, it was the same thing. And, it really empowered me to continue going on this journey and see how it went, because it was just very different. It was the idea of being able to take these very big, often criticized organizations and help them tell their story, to help set the record straight. And there was just so much empowerment in that, and so much to be grateful for, that these major organizations trusted you to speak for them. And that was really cool. And that's what made me stay on this path in a large part.
I love it, because the media industry, it has its great pros and cons, right? But it has more pros than ever.
They definitely have their cons. I mean, especially now, with everything that's going on, with COVID-19, business, quite frankly, has been extremely busy, because the organizations are all of them are affected by this in some way. And it certainly showcases the role that media plays, especially on the other side of the table in PR and representing as a spokesperson and a strategist for so many other organizations still, how they want to show up in a crisis. Like, how do you want to show up for the people that work for your organization, your customers, your partners, your clients, the world? And that's happening to a lot of people. Now is a really big decision-making time for a lot of persons. And unfortunately, many of these organizations are finding that they were ill-equipped. And I think that that's what makes the role of being in PR so very important right now.
Absolutely. It's so, so important. And what are some strategies you would give to listeners who are looking to advance in the media industry?
In terms of being in PR or in terms of getting PR? Because there's certainly two versions of that.
Let's talk about both. It's both sides, too.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I would definitely say from a professional standpoint, like I said, this, especially when in the face of crises and in the face of major world events, it is a very easy guess of who is prepared and who isn't, just like I just said. And I think that really holds true when we start talking about professionals, too. So I think experience goes a long way. I do not believe that I would be as successful in my entrepreneurship journey or in founding a boutique PR agency and getting the caliber of clients that I have if I had not trained under people who were simply the best. I mean, being able to work at some of the world's biggest organizations and seeing people who know this stuff inside and outside practice and have me take them under their wing and mentor me and show me was really one of the best gifts that I could have gotten besides my education. Being able to get that foundation, I encourage anyone who desires to go and do PR that they take that step back, no matter where you are in your career, and understand this is not something you can really teach yourself. This is something that is a practice. We have, governing boards There are organizations that teach. And a lot of times we live in this very, microwave Instagram world where people think that you can be whatever you say you are. And in so many ways that's true. But at the same time, you've really got to have the skill set and the knowledge to back it up. And I wish that if more people want to pursue careers in media and PR, that they would either go seek higher education in the area. I mean, me, for one, I've been an adjunct professor for almost 6 years now, teaching communications and having the opportunity to explain to people what the career path really is. Or they have the opportunity to take internships, even as an adult in an established career. I have people all the time who just want to watch me work and understand what it is that I do day in and day out. And, if you are younger or you're still going through your formal education, I mean, there are opportunities even in the corporate sense for you to get an entry-level job in PR and really learn it. But that's definitely the advice that I would give someone is if you're going to be like a true practitioner of your craft, you got to go learn it. When it comes to people who want to be in the media, it's really about telling the authentic story of your company or who you are. Using our current climate as a really good example, you see now when you turn on the news every day, the people who are on the news, who are telling their stories, they're people who are either A, impacted by the current global pandemic, or they are people who have in some way leaned in to help. And that is part of that powerful storytelling in terms of how you're able to be able to really, quite frankly, read the room and understand where you fit into the news. And I think that's a daily game. That's a daily thing for anyone who wants to be in the media or wants to position themselves as an expert, is understanding how do I fit into what is going on now, because media and PR are very much impacted by external factors that change daily. And that's not just now, that's always.
Yeah, and that's so important, right? And it's important that you, like you said, you know what you're passionate about, and you know what you want to do, and you know where you're standing, right? And you know exactly what areas you want to touch and that you want to be the expert in, to distinguish yourself, to be different, and to be unique, right? So
absolutely.
Separate yourself from everybody else and what they're doing, right? In the media.
Oh, yeah.
So that is big. So you have been a spokesperson for some of the world's most notable brands. So please tell our listeners how you achieved these amazing accomplishments.
Again, it's following the path. I mean, I think the first time that I went on the record as a spokesperson, I was probably a year or so out of college. And ironically, I was still living in New York, but it was a North Carolina paper. And it was just one of the films, just like I explained, of euphoria. And that's how you become a spokesperson, is being able to not just do PR and really, even taking a step back. When I say PR, a lot of people don't even still know exactly what that means. A lot of people think social media management is PR or photo shoots is PR, and that's not necessarily true. When I speak about it, I'm talking about the nuts and bolts of being in media relations, and that is the strategic direction of the external message of how companies and brands tell their stories. It's everything from what you may see on a website to what's in a press release to even what the CEOs say in speeches. You have an influence over all of that. And once you have the opportunity to kind of grow in those roles and in the profession, people eventually entrust you enough to be able to be the person who picks up that phone and talks to reporters and say it for the company. And that's something that I started now. It's been over 10 years of me doing that. And even more recently being, of course, a spokesperson for Bloomberg and a spokesperson for Yang. But I've been a spokesperson for every single company that I've ever worked for. And also even still having the opportunity to do it for a number of individual businesses and organizations who are very notable. And that comes from, again, you got to be a true study, of your craft. You got to be live and breathe, what you're dealing with and what you're living every day. You got to understand the story, and you also have to be able to tell it in a way that makes the most sense. And that's how you really become a spokesperson. But even in the crisis sense, I mean, you have to be smart about the positioning of how things just happen. I think that that's really twofold. One of the really cool things about me is that I really make it a point that even though I know something inside and outside, I never really truly ever want to be a real subject matter expert of any company or person that I'm working with. I never want to be so in the weeds that I don't have the ability to look up and see how something is being perceived. So you have to be able to have a certain sense of self-awareness and a certain sense of how the world views different issues so that you could be effective and persuasive when you speak. Being in media doesn't work if you're not persuasive, and if you're not able to view different things from the lens of others. You have to understand the views of other people in order to be effective, and I think that matters when you speak out on behalf of other people. You have to understand how different parts, different demographics, different income levels, different, geographical areas, like just different races and ethnicities, how do they understand the information that's being given, and how do you make a message that really resonates with all people that makes sense?
So important, right? Messaging is so important. And I just want to commend you for those amazing opportunities, amazing accolades that you have had to be able to work with some of these major brands that a lot of people haven't had a chance to do, that's been in the industry for longer than you, right? So I just want to commend you for the amazing things that you are doing. So what is some advice you would give to listeners who would like to work with notable brands? Like for listeners that are trying to get there, they're trying to accomplish these goals that you've accomplished, what are some strategies they should take in order to, work towards landing these opportunities?
Right. And I know this is the third time that I've said it, but that's because I really mean it, and third time's the charm. Like, you really have to be a steward of your craft, and so many people miss this very key step, and I still don't understand how, but a lot of people, don't really focus on the education portion. They don't focus on the experience, and they come into the door with a sense of entitlement, like someone owes them something. And I think that for everything that you have to do, you have to really position yourself to get it. A good example of this is when I lived in New York and I worked at IBM and Philips, I knew that I wanted to come back to North Carolina. But there was a bit of a gap in that plan, because in order for me to go to North Carolina and go back to my home state and actually get a role in corporate America that was similar to the path I had been on or would be the next level in that, I was essentially saturated with nothing but technology and banking companies. That was it. And at the time, after the recession, technology had pretty much died in North Carolina in so many different ways. I'd already worked in IBM, so it wasn't really an option for me to go back, to North Carolina and work at IBM. That just didn't make sense because I'd already done it at headquarters in a sense. And so one of the things I really knew that I needed was banking experience. And it just seemed like there was no way I was going to get banking PR experience on the path I was going. But when I had the opportunity to go to Walmart, I made a deal. I had the chance to say, hey, you guys have a financial services division. They have spokesperson work and PR work for the bank branch that's in most Walmart stores. And then you also have the banking products like Bluebird by American Express, which I helped to launch. And then you also had the services like MoneyGram and Western Union. And back then, flashback, way when, you had the Rush Card by Russell Simmons. It's like, so you had all these products that were Walmart-based that you could use or were available in Walmart, and they still needed messaging and PR and support behind them. And I knew that if I could do those things, even though it would be very much for the people who were underbanked or unbanked, which is kind of perfect if you think about it, for a number of the issues that the banking industry was facing after the recession, the financial crisis, it made sense to me that if I could get that experience, I could get to a bank in North Carolina, and it worked. You know, I went to Walmart, and I was able to do, of course, some tech PR, which I had already started, but I got to expand to other industries all at once that I just wouldn't have the chance to touch if I had gone to a company that only did one thing. So I got to get the banking experience, and that's all I needed for me to go to Bank of America right after that. I needed the one thing. And a lot of times it's just really thinking and asking if you have a contact somewhere where you really want to work or you're able to network. It's like, what am I missing? What will make me competitive up against other people? And in every turn in my career, I've gone to get the things that I was missing. If there was something that I was missing off of that resume, I may take a job doing A, but I'm going to work on a stretch assignment doing B, or I'm going to try to position myself to do something that's going to make me better. And I think that that's another thing, especially when we look at people who are entry level or, you know, may work what they think are really static jobs, is that they don't take the opportunity to reach outside their department to do other things. If you're at your job and you're killing it and you're meeting all your goals and your manager's good, but you know you're not getting promoted, what's wrong with the stretch assignment? Like, what's wrong with taking on more duties and responsibilities if it's going to build your resume? And a lot of people overlook that. And especially in this environment, you have to be competitive. You got to go get what it is you want to get. And what's going to make you shine in a pool of applicants. And I think that that's really the advice that I would give to other people who are trying to break in the doors at other places is, what are you missing? Are you missing a skill? Are you missing a contact? What are you missing, and where can you get it where you are right now and work on it from that angle?
Awesome. I love that. And thanks for shining light on that and just, you know, giving strategies to people who are trying to grow, right? Because, you know, I'm sure, you know, and you know how this industry is. Sometimes people are not as open as you were, you know? So that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. So how did you, I asked my guests all of these questions, the same question I asked all of my guests, because you have built multiple tables for yourself, Latoya. So how did you create your seat at the table?
That's a really, really good question. I think it's because, and I tell people this all the time, I think I have something that no one else does. And I think it's just the combination of things. What I get most excited about when I think about my background is not all the different industries I've been able to touch in my field, but also, you know, I say I'm a tough cookie. You know, I'm someone who can take feedback. I'm a great leader, and even in leadership in corporate America, those aren't things that I really was born with. That's a skill set that was cultivated over time through some good and sometimes some hard lessons. But I think that it's very difficult to bring everything that I bring and my one body represents to a table. I've got the view of so many industries, so many experiences, and so many things wrapped up into one that, you know, I'm able to get there and I'm able to maintain my seat. But here's the thing that I wish all people would really understand is that we often, I'm sure you've heard of the Tyler Perry thing about, you know, I couldn't get a seat at the table, so, you know, I built my own sort of thing. I think that you have to be ready at whatever time that when you're no longer welcome somewhere, that you have what it takes to get up and walk away. And I think that comes from the fact that if anyone who follows me on social media or knows anything about me, I no longer believe in really having a world where we put all of our eggs in one basket, or I only have one seat at one table. I sit at many tables. And that's just because the world has evolved that you can't really do that anymore. And you also can't stake your self-worth and your knowledge and everything that embodies you in that one seat because it can be here today and gone tomorrow. And I think that once you have that view on things, that you're able to really walk into a room with the confidence and knowing that you bring something to the table, no matter what table it is, your own, someone else's, 3 of them, 4 of them, that nobody else can bring. And when you make that mental shift, and even more importantly, that spiritual shift, doors will open for you, and there'll be seats at many tables for you.
Absolutely. That mental shift is so, so important. Thanks for sharing that. So we all have a process on our journey, Latoya, and we have to learn to embrace the process in order to get to that next level. So what did failure teach you on your journey?
Well, definitely failure has taught me to never depend on a soul. I know that sounds really, very blunt and to the point, but that's what failure taught me. And what's funny about my failures is if I were looking at the things I failed at, professionally, I actually didn't fail. I think that a lot of things that could be perceived as failures from the outside world are not your fault. There are things and forces that have nothing to do with you in this world. And sometimes you're a chess piece. And I think that you got to understand that, especially if you're pursuing a career in corporate America. But one of the things that failure has really taught me is self-awareness and introspection. I get the opportunity to really dissect my behavior differently than I think other people would. And I think part of that is because it is difficult being a leader, especially as a millennial woman, as a Black woman, a woman in the South, a woman from the South, and you are in the different spaces that no one else looks like you. No one else has a background, and you get to be a background exactly like yours, and you get to be able to say, how am I different in this world than, other people, or how is an action that I'm taking perceived differently than how I meant it? And that's the really cool part about the self-awareness, is because you get to grow from it. You get to say, you know what, that didn't work out the last time I did that. I'm not going to do that again. And you know what, that wasn't really successful the last time I did it. I'm not going to do it again. And I think that's a thought process when you start thinking about failure. If you do not pass the test, you will repeat the test. And that's the beauty of failure, is it gives you a chance to go back in the door and pass the test.
Absolutely, right, because it's a lesson. And a lot of people miss that next level because they give up right there in the middle. That's the process. Mm-hmm. That's the most important part of it. It's the process.
Well, yeah.
Like right now,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I sometimes view failure like the old movie Groundhog Day. Like if you keep going and repeating the actions and you keep going back to the start of the day, that you have, again, not cracked the code. And if the same thing keeps happening to you, even if it's not your fault, there's something in that scenario that you got to master. There's something that you haven't mastered yet. It's a skill, and typically it's a soft skill that you just don't have. And you got to figure it out, and you got to work at it.
I love it. And right now, with everything that's happening going on in the world, for some people, and this is a process, right? And you got to embrace this process to get to that next level. And this is a lot of opportunities that we have to look at the process side of right now, right? It's a perfect time to create, and it's a perfect time for opportunity. So, what are your thoughts on what's going on now? What's some positive words you can give to our listeners?
This is a time where I think, like I was saying earlier when we were chatting, is my turning point of entrepreneurship came when I would have been on the biggest train of my life in terms of what my career was. At that point, that had been the biggest job that I'd ever had. I made it to C-suite. I had my own team. I was finally the leader of all communications. I was reporting to a CEO. That was the moment for me to ride what I thought was my wave, and it didn't turn out that way. And it was the most eye-opening thing, because what really bothered me about being reorged in that moment wasn't as much that I lost the opportunity, because I know I'd get another one, you know. I knew I'd be okay. But what it did to me was it made me feel really powerless. It was the idea that I finally got back to North Carolina. I love Charlotte, and I felt as though this was going to be a situation to make me move again. I had already taken 3 corporate relocations, and that if I did not have a role, I would have to leave. And that's when it clicked, you know, between that and then the people coming and saying, take my money, work with me. I want you specifically. I don't want anyone else. That was the moment when I said, I can make my own money. And after that, I could never again depend on a single soul to feed me. That was it for me. And, you know, even coming from the beginning of my career, starting my first company when I was an undergrad as a traditional student, it was very different than this. And what a lot of people are experiencing right now is they have good jobs or have. They're getting furloughed. They're getting reductions in pay. Even in corporate roles, they are getting the jobs that they have always had or have had for a long time. They're now seeing a shift, and there's nothing anybody can do about it. Nothing. You know, this thing has to play itself out as a very powerless position to be in. And through that loss of power, being able to relinquish it and saying to myself, well, let me just see where this road takes me, was one of the most empowering things that I've ever done. Because even though I've gone back to other corporate roles, I was never able again to say, yes, I will never make another dime outside this position, because we don't live in that world anymore. I saw something someone posted the other day that said, if they have the power to tell you to go home, they have the power to tell you to never come back. And that's really impactful, because you cannot, especially in a world like this, put all your eggs in one basket. And I'm grateful that, you know, I'm in the role I am right now in entrepreneurship, even though, of course, I eventually plan at some point to go back to corporate America. But the ability and understanding that people right now really need the help. They need help talking about if a employee of theirs has coronavirus, or if there is an issue with them not being able to serve in their restaurants, or not being able to worship at their churches, or they want to give away their wealth to be able to help people who may be victims of COVID-19. There are so many opportunities for me outside of the corporations that say, hey, we got to cut your hours, or we got to cut your pay. And that's a very privileged position to be in. And I hope that people have the opportunity to see in this moment that how much of your power you relinquish when you take the one check, when you have the ability to make many in a month. You have the chance. And I just want people to open their eyes to do that. And there's nothing wrong at all with having a corporate career. I certainly don't believe that. But I think that this is one of the moments where, back when I felt really powerless in 2017, a lot of people feel really powerless today. And from that comes a lot of opportunity and a lot of rethinking of how you can get out of this rut and how you can really take your power back.
Taking your power back, right? I love that. Love that.
Right.
That's so important. That's so important. So thanks for sharing those positive words for our listeners during this time. So what did success teach you on your journey, Latoya, because you're very successful?
Thank you, and it means a lot to hear you say that, but I think success is a very flighty, shifty thing. You know, I think that it's very, you know, it's very clear that the outside world can see you as a success, and you can very well not see yourself as a success. And people nowadays like to call that imposter syndrome. And it's not even all the time that. It's the fact that success is very relative, and it's something that you have to define for yourself. And as long as you're able to meet your goals, whether they're financial or whether they are just aspirational, that's what's most important. But success has also taught me humility. because in every moment that I felt like, wow, you did it, you made it. I remember a time when I didn't make it and I didn't do it. And that to me is the moment that is most important, because those are the moments who show you and everyone else who you really are. You know, and that's why I never take anything for granted. I'm very grateful. I'm very blessed. And if people seem to think I'm successful, I'm grateful for them saying that. But I know I also still have a lot of work to do.
Absolutely. Kudos to you, though, Latoya, because you're doing some amazing things. So I just want you to know I consistently follow you, and you have been doing some amazing things. So kudos to you. You are very successful.
Well, thank you.
Yes. So what can we expect from you in this year, 2020? We're getting ready to close the first quarter, and you've been knocking it out. So what can we expect from you?
I definitely think that it's going to be a year of surprises. I mean, 2020 has been the biggest surprise yet. Is boom bam surprise, that's for sure. And so I think that your guess is as good as mine, but I do know that things have been very busy and very good. And the fun stuff about crisis is that just moments that are really pivotal, really critical, you get to separate the real from the fake. And what makes me so excited about this year is now we're starting to see that. We're starting to see a lot of separation. We're starting to see, you know, who's built for the long haul and who isn't. And so I definitely foresee a lot of really good opportunities come my way. They're already coming, and things have been busy with my current clients, and I see some corporate opportunities on the horizon too, just speaking all these different things into existence. And really all I want is what God has for me. And so whatever that is that's my 2020 plan. Yes.
Super excited. And like you said, surprise, but it's a great surprise, right?
Right. I don't know. It's like basically being in the audience of, you know, the Oprah show, and it's just like, and you get a stay in place. You know,
right?
So it's like, okay. So I think that it's going to be such a crazy year, and just like in 2008 and 2009, this year is going to define a lot of industries. It's going to define a lot of the way we live going forward, and I think that some things are going to stay, but I think a lot of things are going to go.
Well, you know what I said? This is going to be a great year, right? I tell everybody it's still our year, right? It's positive things are going to continue to happen. Like you said, a lot of awesome opportunities. So I would tell every listener, just embrace it, right? Embrace it and create.
Right, yes. Exactly.
Yes. So could you please tell our listeners how they can follow you, Latoya, and book you on all social media platforms?
Oh, yes. I'm very easy to find, as I love to say. The main place you can find me is Instagram. My personal handle is Latoya S. Evans. My business one is Latoya Evans PR. And you can also email me, of course, at latoya@latoyasevans.com. And my website is latoyasevans.com. You can also easily type me into Google and find me. I swear I'm the easiest person to find.
Yes, she is. So make sure you follow, support on all social media platforms, and make sure you book Latoya. Like I stated, she is doing some amazing things. So, Latoya, thank you so much for taking the time out of your very busy schedule to come to the table. We finally were able to have a seat at the table tonight, and it was a powerful interview, and I can't wait to invite you back.
Well, thank you so much, Ashley. Grateful to be here, and can't wait to come back. Thank you for everything.
You are welcome. I look forward to working with you in this new year.
Same.
Thank you. So I would like to give a special thanks to my intern, Sarah, from Tennessee State University, and my intern, Vontaria, from Winston-Salem State University. You all may follow me on Facebook at Ashley Little and on Instagram at _Ashley A. Little.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Creating Your Seat at the Table, where Ashley speaks with corporate professionals, celebrities, entrepreneurs, authors, and speakers who are transitioning or have transitioned to entrepreneurship.